You ever have a day where you know if you turn your back on something, it'll haunt you the rest of your life? I did. Let me tell you, it starts with a mule team, dust on my coat, and a damn cold wind. Nothing heroic, nothing planned. You know what I mean? Reed Holston. That's me, dragging my old bones down Redstone Crossing, trying to buy salt, coffee, lamp oil, nails, the boring stuff that keeps a ranch breathing. I keep my head low, beard outgrown, eyes burned gray from too many years squinting at this mean country, not much for small talk. Especially not after what happened in the war or the 10 lonely years since my wife died. The grave behind the cabin keeps getting heavier. And some days I think I'm just patching fences to keep from following her in. But that day, I didn't get as far as the general store. There was a knot of men at the liver yard. Thick with that ugly air people get when they're bored and cruel. I wasn't looking for trouble. I just heard, auction, last one left, worthless, and the way my hand tightened on the reins. I should have known better. I saw her chained up, wrists raw, deerskin dress ripped, feathers and beads hanging by threads, chest exposed for all the wrong reasons, standing not proud, not beaten, just refusing to give them anything. Not a tear, not a plea. That's courage, the kind that gets you branded cursed, stubborn, or both. They said she hadn't spoken in 3 days. Wouldn't kneel, wouldn't cry, wouldn't sell. The look in her eyes stopped me cold, like she was seeing through me and everyone else, weighing danger against 100 bad choices. I could have walked away, could have told myself the ranch needed me, the grave needed visiting. But leaving her there would have been like burying my wife all over again. So I did the only thing I could. I bought her. No bill of sale, no words. The chain dropped. She didn't even flinch. I didn't touch her, didn't guide her, just walked back to the wagon. She climbed up, holding my coat across her lap, not meeting my eyes, both of us silent as the road unwound behind the mule team. I couldn't stop thinking about her wrists, the way she kept her face still, and how long she'd been holding herself together that way. Later, I'd learn her name was Awanada, last of her people, taken in a raid, language stripped from her, pride never sold. Her only plan now, survive without breaking. Back at my place, dusk laying orange light over the scrappy fence lines and stubborn pasture, I showed her inside. 1 room, 2 beds, the smaller one I'd built when my wife got sick. Yours if you want, I said. No talk about locks, chores, rules. I wasn't going to play at being her owner. She took it all in, stove, table, a ring on the shelf. I caught her staring at it and pocketed it without a word. We ate stew in heavy silence, her by the fire, me at the table, the kind of quiet that feels like a test. That night, I rolled out another blanket, marked in my head where to build her a proper divider for privacy. Neither of us slept, just listened to the wind, to each other breathing, waiting to see if the silence meant safety or something else. I thought of the morning was cold. I moved through chores, noticing a second set of footprints in the dirt now. When I came back in, Awanada sat curled up, hair hiding half her face, still in that torn dress. I made coffee. No sugar, I said, not knowing if she understood a word. I laid it out, fixing fences, mending hinges, tools outside. Stay or come, your choice. Freedom's a word men use for all the wrong reasons, so I didn't say it. Just the facts. She got up, slow, cautious, and I handed her a pair of old moccasins. They might have been my wife's once. Now they were hers. No thanks, just a nod. That was enough. We worked side by side, her hands quick, strong, not needing direction. After a while, she picked up a post and started helping, no words, just action. That afternoon, she fixed the chicken coop hinge herself. I just watched, realizing the cabin wasn't mine alone anymore. That night, she finally spoke. Why? She asked. Her voice rusty but clear. Why'd you take me? I told her the truth. Because no one else should have, because I had room. She said, I don't want to be owned. Not wife. Not slave. No, I agreed. That was the deal. Days went like that. Work, eat, sleep. Each day she moved a little less like a stranger, started wearing a shirt of my wife's over her mended dress. She cleaned, tended animals, swept the corners, made herself part of the place without asking. One day, as we sat resting on a log, she asked, why do you live alone? I told her about my wife, about how the grave out back wasn't the end, just the weight I carried. She shared, too, how she'd been sold because she wouldn't obey, wouldn't be quiet. I said, "You don't have to be quiet here." She looked at me, long and hard. "Even if I speak against you, you can say what you need," I promised. That night, she slept on the cot, not the floor, pulled the blanket tight. Her arm curled under her cheek, peaceful, almost. The first time she smiled, it wasn't at a joke or a kindness. It was at the simple relief of not having to run. When the first snow fell, the world shrank to just the ranch. We kept to our routines, but the space between us got smaller. A hand on a shoulder, a quiet moment at the table. Trust, not love, at first, but something real. She started sleeping closer to the fire, and then closer to my bed. One night, she finally reached for me, her hand on my chest, asking nothing, just needing to be sure I wouldn't turn away. And I didn't. We lay together, slow and careful, both of us half broken, both choosing not to run. Afterward, in the hush of the cabin, it felt like the first time either of us had ever truly belonged. Spring came slow, mud giving way to green. She told me her monthly was late, her voice calm, unafraid. "Are you ready?" she asked. I never thought it would happen again, but if it was with her, then yes, I was ready. That night, she told me, "If I carry your child, I want to belong here, not rescued, not a guest, as your wife." I took out the ring, slipped it on her finger. Not by law, by choice, mine and yours. We undressed slowly, joined by promise, not need, and for once, the past didn't crowd out the present. By the time the fields started to green, the ranch was different. Awanada had patched her dress, carved out space for her things, set a cradle near the hearth. The old divider stayed, out of respect, not necessity. One day, a supply rider from Redstone asked if I was still living alone. "No," I said. "I've got a wife." He looked surprised, maybe a little impressed. "Town says she's lucky." "No," I told him, "I am." People kept talking in town. Didn't matter. What mattered was how, each night, Awanada rested her head on my shoulder and placed the ring, wrapped in linen, in a carved box by the cradle. The ring's journey was done, not forgotten, just part of the story now. When spring finally broke through, I watched her crouched by the onion shoots, her belly just beginning to swell. She caught me looking. "You're staring again." I smiled. "I know. We hadn't been back to town, didn't need to." She made her place here, mended what needed mending, grew roots. We stood on the porch. The land opened before us, and she asked, "You still think this ranch has a future?" "Because you're in it," I said. She leaned into me, hand on her belly, the other wrapped around my waist. There were still storms, still gossip, still memories that pressed in on quiet nights. But none of that could undo what we'd built. A home, a family, a future neither of us had dared hope for. That's what staying means. Choosing, every day, to be here, to live, not just survive. So tell me, where does belonging begin? In the land, in the work, in the choice to stay when running seems easier? You tell me in the comments, yeah? Because I think that's a story we're all still figuring out.